My name is Louise Welch. I lead Enterprise Learning and Development and Tech College at Capital One. I joined about a year ago, so still relatively new. I came from Google, where I spent the past 14 years in a variety of HR and people operations roles. And we've had just a tremendous time at Capital One, really doing a lot of new, innovative, transformational work. And I'm excited to share it with you today. So we will get into it as soon as I get my clicker. Let's see if this will work, but maybe not. There we go. It works. Great. Perfect. OK, so it's funny. I have some team members here. Typically, before every team meeting, we start off with a meditation minute to get focused and get present. I'm not going to ask you guys to do a meditation minute, but I am going to ask everyone just to pause and have some self-reflection for a moment. So think about your future self. Think about kind of what are the roles or careers you all aspire to achieve and to become. And then think about what are the skills you personally need in order to realize those new roles or careers. And then think for a second, how much time do you dedicate to your own learning? So unfortunately, there's a problem. So there's been external research that we all have probably read about that says the average employee spends 24 minutes a week learning. Busy is the new normal. We're all distracted. We're all overwhelmed. We don't make time for learning as part of our kind of daily habits and routines. And just like the external industry told us, we found this to be true at Capital One. So we did a whole host of empathy interviews with associates and asked really what was working, what was not with our L&D approach. And we got some really great feedback that showed us we needed a lot of work. And they said, you know, it's limited, it's old school, it's antiquated. But every single person said, I don't have the time to learn. I need to be an expert tomorrow, right? There's no time in the day. I'm focused on strategy, work results, product. And so my manager and leaders don't support and enable me to learn and grow. So there's a problem kind of that we're all facing probably, and we tried to really tackle this. And why did we tackle this? Well, we became really focused on the need for transformation and disruption right around the time Capital One embarked upon our technology transformation journey. So a few years ago, we went all in on the tech transformation journey, and that was driving our entire kind of business strategy and our learning. And so every single thing with technology needed new learning. So we needed to be able to be a successful company that is kind of a leading information-based technology company that's innovative, you know, with diverse perspectives and thoughts. We needed to bring in and upskill a lot of great kind of new talent and existing talent on new skills and technology and digital enhancements. So not only did we have this huge kind of mission that we need to start upskilling our entire workforce on the technology languages, kind of just the strategy, cloud, data transformation, machine learning, the list goes on. But we also needed to also start attracting new talent. And as we heard from one of the talks earlier, millennials really kind of go to a place in order to learn and grow. And one of the top reasons why people leave companies is because they're not learning and growing kind of fast enough. So we really want to be able to attract talent that have these great skills to help us on this technology transformation, but they stay. They stay at Capital One, and they're engaged and they're retained because they're constantly learning and having multiple careers at Capital One. And we all know probably that, you know, tech jobs are increasing by 20% by 2020. Kind of the half-life of a tech skill is about 2.5 years, so that's dramatically falling. So there's so much need in the industry overall, but especially also at Capital One, that we need to really take this head on and kind of drive this transformation. So that really started kind of our big journey. And we came about this and said, what's our new vision for L&D? What are we going to do to drive all of this energy and kind of the business forward? And we said, you know, we're going to really start transforming learning by delivering the innovative developmental experiences that not only drive the careers, but the lives of all our associates and align to business goals. So we really took like a two-pronged approach here. We said, we want everyone to bring their whole self to work And we're going to help them with their Python skills, their machine learning skills, and their leadership and all their competency. But we also want them to kind of be able to explore and learn and grow in their other personal hobbies and passions. Just like you can teach a Python course, you could teach a yoga course. So our vision is really holistic, careers and lives, about how do you help people with their job, now, tomorrow, 5 years, but bringing their whole passions and hobbies to life. And obviously aligning to business goals and our imperatives, which are really at the forefront of the tech transformation. So how will we bring this vision to life? So we've started to really kind of take a very different approach to how L&D had been done at Capital One. We started to think we're going to completely shift the model on its head, and we're going to actually go bottoms up, not tops down. So, and this is where, PathGather, is our tool, really helped us to start this effort. We want associates creating the content. We want them sharing and engaging and endorsing, but really being kind of the drivers in the driver's seat for our learning development agenda. We also wanted to kind of shift out all the content, right? Really refresh and kind of move away some of the outdated content, move in modern, fresh, bite-sized content, kind of bring in more collaborative learning experiences, but really also make it simple and intuitive and personalized for them to kind of find the right learning at the right time. So that's how we're going to bring this to life and really democratize learning at Capital One and really go from the bottoms up as everyone is a learner, everyone's a teacher, and everyone's a leader versus kind of the tops down approach that we have been taking previously. So let me talk to you about one of our big bets in our transformations that we did last year, and we're on the same path now, is our Learning Hive. So this is our kind of internally branded PathGather tool that we created right when the kind of the energy around this tech transformation was coming about. And we've had a great partnership, obviously, with PathGather, and excited with our partnership with Degree coming up. But what we decided to do was we had two main goals with our Learning Hive when we launched this. We wanted to not only simplify the learning experience, make it personalized, make it intuitive, have one front door. Everyone's talked about that here. Our landscape was fragmented. And two, we wanted a tech platform that really enabled that bottoms-up kind of learning, where everyone's growing and sharing and contributing to this learning agenda, and they're the tentacles of our L&D team, not just our team is kind of driving the learning. So those were our two main goals with kind of the expansion and kind of the launch of Hive. First, though, in addition to that, like in parallel, we're building the team. We're re-architecting and kind of redesigning what L&D looks like at Capital One. And because tech was our main focus, our technical transformation, we created an organization called Tech College and modeled this structure really with the tech organization at the helm. So our accountable executive is our CIO. He sponsors it, he endorses it, he funds it, and he basically said, we're going all in. We're going to really focus on this tech transformation because this is imperative to how we're going to just drive our agenda. And then we took one of our head chief architects and learning professionals, and we kind of brought them together. So we had a learning expertise and professionals, and then we had engineers from the business. And then we started to build out disciplines. So we have 6 core disciplines that we focus on, and we actually brought in one of the lead directors of software engineering, one of the directors of data science, a head of cyber, a head of cloud, a head of machine learning. And those are the absolute experts that we had in-house. They become our deans. And they work side by side with some software engineers as well as learning designers and program managers. And we created kind of this new team that was a blend of tech and L&D. And then equally, we had a lot of great kind of advisory board kind of structure in place to make this really aligned to all of the lines of business. So we made sure that lines of business were all accountable and partnered with each dean for everything we do. So this is kind of what Tech College looked like. And here we go. And together with the Learning Hive and with this new Tech College organization, we really created an awesome product. So not only was Hive at the center of this product, but we organized around all of these disciplines. And you see in green here the 6 disciplines I just mentioned. And we really drove a huge amount of great experiences, content. We created workshops and labs, and you're being taught by subject matter experts. not by vendors, and not even by learning professionals. Obviously, they work hand in hand to create these special moments and these experiences that are really quite magical, but it was just a great experience of two teams coming together and creating kind of a huge, strong movement at Capital One. We also organized around some personas to help us prioritize, but that's really how we structured the team, and then Hive was at the center of that with all the paths and the gatherings that were kind of organized around the paths and the disciplines. So the interesting thing that happened, we launched this last year, is engagement started skyrocketing. So we were marketing it and kind of talking about it in the tech organization with all the tech associates as being kind of our main audience. And all of a sudden, slowly, adoption started increasing from our non-tech audience. So without any formal marketing and communications, we've seen this organic growth happen where now the non-tech audience and associates are overpassing the tech associates. So this was a really surprising learning for us, is that there's hunger and appetite out there from even just the product managers or the designers or the sales folks, like to learn this new language and new strategy that the company has declared is gonna, make us be successful and help us win. So this is just good to show you about have 20,000 users in the platform, over 50% are non-tech. So this engagement started growing, kind of starting last year and earlier this year. So we came to this pivotal inflection point, the team, and we said, we're ready to go enterprise-wide with this, not just tech. And so we're now taking Hive, the Learning Hive, to the company. So all 50,000 people will be able to use this as their front door for learning. And we're going to aggregate in and pull in more content. Where we had focused on internal and external tech content primarily, we're now bringing in all our leadership content, our competency content, trusted vendors like LinkedIn, also like intranet sites and pages from our internal tools, as well as like YouTube, et cetera, and TED Talk. So really aggregating all of this, pulling in from our LMS as well. And this is going to be kind of the new front door for everything at Capital One. And this is rolling out in like 2 weeks. But we never stopped them, right? So like as we were kind of putting this out there, it was always open for anyone to use. Now we're going to actually make it be much more specific to kind of the range of skills that they need to learn, not just the tech skills. So the benefits of kind of leveraging this kind of one front door approach is not only the features that this PathGather tool provides, is great browse, great customization, clear personalized recommendations, but the content is really great. So we've been working with the PathGather team to figure out how we can customize the right enterprise endorsed content, our focus on, let's say, design thinking and our focus on leadership, to have that at the front. But then we have some kind of horizontal rows that are LOB specific for our lines of business. So if I'm in commercial or if I'm in credit card or in FS, I can go quickly down into those paths and see what's relevant to me, but I can also take advantage of the tech skills and the leadership skills. So we don't want to block anyone just because I'm not in tech. I still want to be able to learn Python on the side, right? So we're making it kind of universally open and accessible for everyone. From my Google days. So change in comms. So like I said before, we did no formal comms with Hive before, but now, when we go from 20,000 to 50,000, we have to really consider and think about our change strategy. So we have trained Hive ambassadors, we're engaging the HRC community, we're working with leaders to start posting on a regular basis, and just driving that support. In parallel, we're also talking to them about what does a culture of learning really mean, and making sure that people are carving off more than 24 minutes a week to learn. So we're reinforcing kind of the behaviors and some of the systemic changes we want to see in the culture with some of these conversations with Hive going to the front door. So I wanted to talk about one more related kind of transformational journey that we're on, which is what we call P2P, our peer-to-peer kind of learning community. So we're augmenting our team that I described with the power of the associates. And so this had been happening for years and years at Capital One, where we had credit officers that would create our credit content and teach that to anyone who's going through the credit track. We have that in engineer. We have hundreds of engineers that give back on certain skills, and so they make up our adjunct faculty. But we're going to really take kind of a deeper look at this and wrap our arms around the whole peer-to-peer community. How do we engage them? How do we recruit them? How do we reward them and recognize them? And how do we support them? Because not only for them to kind of give back to the company, they're developing skills. They're developing facilitation skills, coaching and mentoring skills. And so we're really kind of going all in on this peer-to-peer learning culture. And you can see kind of that will scale, and it make it just more, not only the content's going to be relevant and contextual with examples and stories for Capital One, but it's also going to save us costs because we're not going to be relying so much on vendors. And then, we also had to think, not everyone can be a great teacher. Not everyone has, the skills or the desire to sit in a class or a workshop and facilitate. So we created different roles in which people can participate in kind of this peer-to-peer strategy. So they can teach or facilitate, they can review content, they can build virtual classes or ILTs, design or curate the experiences, or serve as mentors and coaches. And we're also building, with all our engineers, we're building an internal, homegrown application to help us manage this peer-to-peer community and track people with the skills and then track them with opportunities that we have available across the learning community and agenda, so we can kind of plug in. We need someone for this type of role, and we know who to go to and how to connect people. So this internal application will really help us scale this effort. So those were just two kind of deep dives on the Learning Hive and our peer-to-peer culture that are just really fundamental to the transformational journey we're on. We have a lot more in store. We're doing a lot of work with reinventing our open enrollment classroom kind of process. We brought in LinkedIn Learning, which is a new vendor for us. And we're refreshing and kind of completely kind of starting from scratch and rebuilding content for leadership, competency, going all in-house for those assets, as well as data transformation. So a lot is on the roadmap and the agenda. So as I kind of wrap this up and close this, one thing that was most apparent to the team and myself was the culture, right? How are we driving this learning culture that is long-lasting, that really impacts behavior change, that really drives habits, that people are kind of really continually learning and growing, not just for the sake of what they need to do tomorrow, but really just for kind of their whole selves. And so that starts with the people, that starts with the team. And so that's where we're starting, along with all of these other efforts along the way. So that's how Capital One's taking learning to the next level. And that's all I have.
Cool. So I have a couple questions I want to ask you. First of all, so you came to Capital One after working at Google for a really long time. How did your time at Google impact the approach that you took to building and leading your team?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think it impacts in so many ways. There's so many intangibles that kind of the culture at Google provided. But if I had to kind of think of three or a couple here, one is Google is a really fast-paced, kind of 10x thinking, blue sky culture where trying to change the world on massive scale. And so I think that approach for innovation is really great for us as a team to just really think, how do we kind of 10x this? How do we go big, change the game, and make some disruption? And I'm a little bit okay with breaking some glass along the way just to drive that innovation. And so I think that kind of came from my Google days. One tactic I brought from Google was our OKRs. Someone mentioned that earlier, objectives and key results. It's just a really great structure for how we create what is our vision and our strategy and mission, but then what are our big objectives and key results for each quarter, so we can really hold true, and the whole team actually knows what we're driving towards, and they can see the progress throughout the year. So those would be a few.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned team, and you spoke about it a bit in the presentation, but I'm really curious about how, bringing in engineers and data scientists, how they worked with the more traditional L&D team members really to build the new programs.
Right. So it's been a great experience, and we have one of our deans of data science here, and so he can talk a little bit about it as well. But I think at first it was like, okay, we build things, we run the code, we build the code, and we do all of this, we know machine learning. And then it took, for the learning team, actually, it was a great opportunity for them to kind of sell their value prop and say, here's what we bring to the table in terms of like design and UI and UX, and being really clear on learning objectives and evaluation, and assessment strategies. And so like as they, as we kind of learn from each other, kind of our unique skills, we all started just like working side by side. And we had pods, intentional pods, where, for example, like the pod of cyber has a dean of cyber and a learning program manager of cyber and a designer that works with them and a software engineer. So they are all one team, not this team and that team, and so they feel like a cohesive unit, where they value each other's skills like immensely, because one cannot be successful without the other.
Yeah, I think working with your team, I've really seen that, and so it's been curious to me how you put that together.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question. I was chatting with one of your team members today, and she was telling me in the lunch line that you block an hour on the calendar of everyone in your org from 8:30 to 10:30, and you tell them it's not a meeting,
right?
It's time for them to prioritize their learning. And I thought that was really cool. What other tips do you have for people managers about how to support their folks' learning?
Yeah, it's tactical, it's small, but this is where we've got to start with the learning culture and the time. So our team is a sizable team, and so I wanted to make sure like everyone felt like it's a busy spot, so no admins, no one else can actually schedule over it, and it's really for you to read, listen to a podcast, take something in LinkedIn Learning, or do anything that's just driving your learning passions. Doesn't even have to be related to your role. And so that's really taken light and kind of gotten people excited. We have a Slack channel. We have many Slack channels. But a lot of people, we've done LinkedIn Learning challenges since we just brought on that vendor. And so now everyone's posting in the Slack channel what they've learned that week. So I posted something in advance of this about how I was refreshing myself on some presentation and executive presence and the power pose, and so I posted a little bit about like what I learned in a few minutes of the videos, or like how I'm going to put that into action here. And so like I think getting the continual conversation going and make it really informal and fun, I think drives the right behavior. And also we do all hands monthly, and we're going to start highlighting people in the org that have had fantastic learning journeys. And like the examples, how they've learned. Like we had one person that came from the call centers, and he has been a self-taught software engineer. It's like an amazing performer, like is doing exceptional, innovative things, and like he has just an amazing story to tell, and we just need to tell those more and more. So we're starting with those types of efforts within the team, and then we're going to take this big. We're going to go company-wide with some of that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the enterprise launch.
Yes,
cool.
That'd be good.
All right. So questions for everyone else? We have a mic runner.
Hi, I'm Gloria Churchill, and I was just wondering, you mentioned just now the call center. How are you handling your bottom-up approach with non-exempt employees?
So they equally have access to everything in the Hive, and so we've really almost positioned this as a benefit for everyone to again be lifelong learners and learn when they have time. It's really how they position it with their managers, kind of carving out the right time. Everyone has the access, kind of they could log in through SSO at home and access the content. So we try to messages in that way. Not only could you take nuggets from the content that are in the tool that could be helpful for their role, customer service, or some of the things that they're driving within the role within that team, but also it's open for anyone and all the content's available at any time. So it's up to them to take advantage of it.
Another one here.
Hi, Jessica from 1010 Data. You seem to have the dream where you have a lot of different teams contributing and part of your effort. And I work at a company where everyone's 110% allocated at any given moment, usually for the client. So how did you get people who are dedicating part of their workday to this effort, and what leaders did you have to influence to make that happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we try that approach, and I still don't think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think we tried it originally with Tech College, a few years way before my time, where it was a side of desk activity. We were asking those experts in ML to help us curate the content, and always the day job comes first, right, unfortunately, and we're trying to kind of change that. But back then, that was creating more friction. So we went to our CIO and said, here's what we've got to do to enable like the effort and the momentum, and to make this a real thing that is going to impact all 10,000 of your engineers and associates to help us on the tech transformation. So we gave the business case to him, and that's when he said, great, we're going to let you have like 30 odd engineers, and they're going to be fully dedicated to Tech College and this agenda. And you know, we've had them there for a year, and maybe we'll rotate. Maybe it will be a cycle where they can go back to the business to you know, keep their skills fresh and honed, and then we rotate new experts in. So we found more success with that model, but in other parts of the business, there's different models that work for different reasons. And so I think if you can get the right incentives, like hopefully intrinsic, not extrinsic incentives to get people to want to give back to the learning community, and reward and recognize them, maybe that's baked into talent management or performance management. We're dabbling with a few of those things, where learning is important. And if everyone should be contributing to learning at the company, and if they're not, you know, like, are they going to get the highest rating? Are they going to get the promotion? Who knows? We're trying to figure out what that is. But we want this to be a really important contribution that everyone participates in.
Just have a quick question. So what tools are you recommending to your employees for creating content?
Well, it's really up to them. So we just went Google. Yay, switch from Microsoft. So a lot of people are just creating things in Google Docs and Drive and then sharing that. You mean in terms of like creating the content and the assets that go onto Hive? So it's a whole range of Articulate, Storyline, right? So you have the formal, you know, kind of content providers that are helping create the content for our learning community. But then you also have these engineers that, you know, may have some code in GitHub and they're able to share that in Hive. Or they just want to write a manifesto about something in a Google Doc and they can share that. So it's really open, up to them.
Hey, I have about 2 questions here.
Sure.
So the first was around your associated created content. So for me, that sounds like we're going to let all of our frontline employees, you know, create content and teach us. And I think the concern around that is quality, accuracy, and all of those things. So can you talk to us about the concerns that, you know, or challenges that may come up when we talk about that? And I think another thing that I was interested to learn about is on your roadmap where you talked about competency-based learning. Can you talk to us about your goals for that aspect, you know, like about it? Thank you.
Right, yeah, sure. No, content quality is huge, and we are actually using the engineering talent we have in the team, and we're going to automate this. So I know people talked earlier about a governance team. You know, maybe we'll get to that, but I'm hoping we can automate it more so we have smart systems that actually can detect bad quality content or broken links or, you know, typos, or someone created a content and they left the company. So there's a guy right over here that's building that, and I can introduce you to him. His name is Brent, but it's kind of an automated, you know, content and evaluation kind of, you know, system that will continually kind of scrape and scan all the content in the system. I would rather do that than hire a team of, you know, 10 people to manage the quality. And I think we'll also take our risk with some things, right? Like we want to empower, like 99% of the content's going to be great content. And so we're going to take that approach. And also in PathGather, we can also endorse and highlight Capital One endorsed content. So some of the content we create as a learning team can bubble to the top and it has that endorsement. But we don't want to stop anyone from creating the content. Okay, and then competency. So it was interesting. About 6 months ago, we looked at all our competency curriculum. We have our values and our competencies, and 90% of our competency curriculum was vendor-led. That just doesn't seem right? Like it's like this is, you know, living the values, like was led by, you know, a vendor, and so that just didn't seem right. And so we took a whole new approach to build from the ground up with, again, subject matter experts. So who's a great storyteller? Who's great with strategy and influence and some of the things that are, you know, really culturally kind of meaningful for us. And we brought them in alongside with a designer and built that content, and we're going to scale that. So that was just more of our refreshing of the content and making it applicable or relevant, right? So we can be telling more stories from the people who are living this, right, at the company.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yes.